This is a 2006 Town and Country minivan, and I'm going to change the power steering pump. And the reason I'm doing it myself is because the mechanic said it would cost $500 to do this, and the job really isn't that bad if you do it right. And from what I saw on the internet, everything was wrong that I saw on there. So the first thing you want to do is disconnect your battery terminal so that you don't have to worry about getting it sparked. So I jacked up the van and I put it on jack stands. Do it however the manufacturer tells you to jack it up. You want to take off the shield, the dust cover. That's this piece. And you'll need a tool to do that. And it looks like this. Or you could use a screwdriver. Okay, so after you get that thing off, the next thing you want to do is to take a monkey wrench with a tube on it, and you want to put it on this area right here and move the idler pulley down and take the serpentine belt off of the air conditioner. And the air conditioner is right there in the front. You can pull the belt off real easy off the air conditioner. So once you have the serpentine belt off, you can take this idler tensioner off and get it out of the way. And that'll give you some more room. The other thing I did was take a 13mm wrench and I put it onto this pulley right here and I took it off. That's for the water pump. It gives you a little more room to get your hand up there and do what you have to do. Okay, so the next thing is take out the box that was right there. That's the air box. There's a bolt right there and a bolt on the other inside the box that you want to take out. Then the whole entire air box will come out. And then you'll also have to take this tube off of the throttle body, and you'll have to take off 2 of these plugs. That gives you room to push this AC tube out of the way, and you can get your hand in here. This is the power steering, and you have to work through this hole in the pulley itself and take the bolt out from this side. And you're going to do that with a regular 3/8 ratchet with a 13mm socket. It has to be very narrow right here, and you can't use a thick socket because you can barely get this in so that you can take the bolt out. I believe you can do all 3 from the top, but I took one of them out from the bottom, and that's why I started from the bottom. The other people on the internet tell you to take them out from the bottom. They come out much easier from the top. Okay, so then the next thing is underneath there's some supports for the power steering hose. You have to take those off. And once you have these bolts out of here, I had to bump mine with a rubber hammer under here to get it off of this aluminum bracket. And then the whole thing came free. I took the whole thing down underneath. Oh, wait a minute, one more thing. Before I took that off, I took off this hose. This hose goes like this in back of the motor. It comes over here and it connects onto this port right here, this tube coming out of the reservoir. You have to disconnect that. You have to drain all that fluid out. Try to get it down as low as you can, not make a mess. And you have to take a bolt out right here and pull this out of the power steering pump, and that uses either a 5 or a 6mm Allen wrench. And then you can take this off. So the next thing you're going to do is take the power steering pump and you feed it down and pull it down by the catalytic converter. And you take a 16mm wrench and you take off the high pressure line that's screwed into the side of the power steering pump, and it's screwed in right here where this red plug is. You can see the other one. Where's the other one? The other one is right here. This is the low pressure side. Okay, so once you do that, now you have no tubes on this pump, and they told me in the instructions in one website to remove the axle, which you don't have to do. They told me in the official instructions from Chrysler, you have to take off the catalytic converter. You don't have to do that. You feed this back through here. Like this. Get it to the other side. You should be able to weasel it through here. Did it once before. Like that. Now it's out. That's the hardest part. That's why they make you go through all that extra work, which you didn't have to do. So now I have to get a tool and pull this off of here because it's pressed on. So I'll get back to you after I pull this off. So here I have the correct puller from the auto parts store to get this pulley off, because the pulley has a metal center with a plastic outer part. So don't try to pull on this part. You just break the pulley in half. Go and rent this thing. It only costs a couple dollars. If you buy it, it only costs 30 bucks. Once I pull that off, then I'll use the bolt hole in the middle to push the pulley back on. Okay, here's the pump. This is a rebuilt pump I got from the auto parts store. Notice it says Toyota on it, which I'm kind of surprised at. I tried to figure out what bolt that was, figuring it'd be metric. Make sure you check. It was actually 3/8 of an inch, 16 threads per inch. And so you want to take the pulley and stick it on there and get a grade 5 or grade 8 bolt that's 3/8 16, and put a nice heavy washer on there. And then you'll have to hold this and then crank down on that with a wrench until you get it pushed all the way on. Make sure you put a couple more washers on to get it seated all the way. Okay, notice that the pulley is now flush with the shaft on the end, and I used a 3/8 16 bolt that was probably about 1.25 inches long, and then every time I turned it one revolution, I'd take it out and put another washer on, and then turn another revolution, put another washer on, until the thing went solid. I just sat this on the ground on a tile and stuck my knees on the side of it and stuck my finger through here and held it. But if you don't have enough strength to hold the thing still, you can put a strap wrench around the outside. Don't try to squeeze this with pliers or something. It's plastic. You're going to break it. Okay, so after you get it together, all that's holding this on now is just the press fit. I took these fittings out. They had plastic things in there in order to keep the dirt out of here. Make sure you don't get dirt in there. But it's really hard to get them out once you're down underneath the car. So I'm just going to take this thing like this and stick it right in here. I'm going to come back in that way. And then I'm going to go underneath and I'm going to grab it. And I'm going to pull it down, and I'm going to put the tube on down next to the catalytic converter. That's the high pressure tube. And then once I feed it back up through here with the high pressure tube connected, I'm not going to tighten it all the way, but I'm going to have it almost all the way tight. Then I'll connect it to this bracket. You see that bracket right here? There's 3 bolt holes on that bracket, and you have to feed the screws through the pulley into that bracket. Okay, so you're looking underneath the passenger side fender, front fender, and you can see that pump with the green words on the back of it. I just have it laying back there. It's kind of being held in by the catalytic converter. It can't come out any farther than that. And I'm going to connect the high pressure line on while it's laying down in there. Okay. Okay, this is the low pressure line. These O-rings came with the power steering pump. You have to pick the right ones, the diameter, and replace this one. One of these O-rings also fits right around this edge. And you don't have to tighten this super hard. I've seen things where people say that you have to tighten hydraulic lines really hard. That's not true. The O-ring is what does the sealing, and not how tight you make this. It's not a compression fitting, and neither is this. So as long as you put the right O-ring on, and you keep everything clean, it'll seal up. One more thing, notice that I did not cut this high pressure line anywhere. I didn't remove any of the heat tape. I didn't do anything to it except for unscrew this 16 millimeter nut. That's all I did. I didn't even cut this low pressure line. You shouldn't have to cut any hoses in order to do this job. If you cut a hose, you got problems. You're going to have to get a new hose. Okay, here you can see I have the wrench stuck through the pulley. There's a hole in the pulley. And you put the bolt through the hole in the pulley and through that aluminum bracket and then into the pump. And you can actually get all 3 from here. So you don't have to remove anything off the front of the engine. All you have to take off is just the serpentine belt, and that's it. Okay, to recap what I did, I had a 2006 Chrysler Town and Country van, and it had a whining sound coming out of the power steering pump, and the bearing was bad. And I know that because originally I tried replacing the reservoir and the fluid, and that quieted down slightly, but not very much, and then the bearing got worse. Between the time I put the reservoir and this pump in, I replaced all the idler pulleys, which also started to go bad, and the alternator and the water pump. So I would say if you're going to do this job, do everything at once and do the serpentine belt and just get it over with. So to start with, what I did on the job was I took off the negative terminal, and I had to clean it up. I then took off this box. I disconnected this sensor back here on the back of the tube coming into the throttle body. There's another wire which is going over to the oxygen sensor on the manifold. I disconnected that, and since I had all this off, I was able to get to all three bolts, which are 13mm bolts that you have to reach through the pulley to get to. I did have to have this jacked up on the passenger side. I didn't have to take anything off of the side of the engine. All I had to do was take the serpentine belt off, and that was it. Once I had the pump off, I could pass the pump. Well, first I had to take off the high pressure line, which used a 16mm wrench, and I could do that from right up in here. I used an Allen wrench, I think it was a 5 or a 6, to take off the low pressure line, which is this one. And I had to drain that line first and drain the reservoir. I had to suck this out with like a turkey baster or some kind of a siphon pump. Okay, after I had the hoses off, I passed the pump back through here and took it out. I pulled the pulley off, I put it on the new pump, I put it back through and connected it all up, and now we're good and the sound's gone. And I used ATF4 in order for the fluid. From what I've read, they say that's the best.